Hi friends, we're going to share the story of the fisherman and his wife. Once upon a time, there was a fisherman and his wife. They lived in a little hovel in the woods and didn't have much money at all. Each day, the fisherman would go off to fish and the wife would go off into the woods to gather what they could. But one day, when the fisherman was out fishing, he threw his net. And when he threw his net, what should he catch but a magic fish? It was a flounder. And the flounder said, "Please throw me back, for I am a magic fish. I'm an enchanted prince." "Oh, of course I will," said the fisherman, and he threw him back into the water, and the fish swam away. But that night, when he got home, his wife said to him, "Well, fisherman, what did you catch?" And the fisherman had to shake his head sadly. "Nothing." She put her hands on her hips and said, "Nothing at all." And then he said to her, "Well," shrugging, I did catch one thing. It was a magic fish, but of course I let him go." The wife threw her hands up in the air. "What?" she said. "What are you talking about? You let him go without asking for anything? Go back and ask him for a wish." Oh, the fisherman looked at her and just shrugged. "What would I wish for?" "Well, you could wish for us to have a nice house and a pretty new dress for me, and maybe a white picket fence." "Very well," said the fisherman, "just as you wish." So he went back. And when he got back to the water and cast his net in, the sky was a little bit darker and the wind had picked up. But he called out, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come I prithee here to me, for my wife, good Ilsebil, wills not as I'd have her will." And the fish came. And the fish asked him, "Well then, what does she want?" "Alas," says she, "wants a house and a nice dress and a white picket fence." "Very well," said the flounder, "go back. She has it already." So the fish swam away, and the fisherman went back through the woods to his house, where to his surprise there was his wife in a pretty new dress, in a pretty house with a nice white picket fence. And the fisherman turned to her and said, "Well then, wife, are you content?" And she looked right at him and crossed her arms and said, "We shall see about that." But the next morning when she woke up, she said, "Fisherman, I wish for you to be king." And she stomped her foot. The fisherman turned right to her and said, "What? I don't want to be king." And she said, "Then I will be king. Go back. Tell the fish." Oh, the fisherman hung his head. He didn't want to do it, but his wife insisted. So he trudged off to the edge of the water, and he called out, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come I prithee here to me, for my wife, good Ilsebil, wills not as I'd have her will." And the fish came. The sky was darker, and the wind was rougher still. And the fish said, "Well then, what does she want?" "Alas," said the fisherman, "she wants to be king." The fish flipped his tail and said, "Go back then. She is king already." And the fish swam away. Now the fisherman trudged back through the woods, but when he got to his path, he hardly recognized it. There was a huge stone castle and a king at the top of the stairs, right at the castle door. And he said, "Wife, is that you?" And she nodded her head. And then he said, "Well then, wife, are you content?" And she said, "We shall see about that." But in the morning, the wife turned and said, "Fisherman, go back. I wish to be Pope." The fisherman shook his head. "No, wife, there is only one Pope in all the land." "Go back," she said, "for I am the king and you are nothing but my husband." Oh, the fisherman hung his head, but he had to go back, and so he did. He trudged through the forest, and when he got to the water's edge, he called out, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come I prithee here to me, for my wife, good Ilsebil, wills not as I'd have her will." And the fish swam right up, and the fish said, "Well then, what does she want?" And the fisherman said, "Alas, she wants to be Pope." "Go back then. She is Pope already." The fish flipped his tail and swam away. Well, when he got back, the fisherman could hardly recognize his wife. And he said, "Wife, is that you?" And she nodded her head, and he said, "Well then, wife, are you content?" And she said, "We shall see about that." But the next morning, when they awoke, the sun hit her right in the eye. And she said, "Fisherman, I wish to decide when the sun will come up and when it will set. Go, tell the fish." Oh, the fisherman did not want to do it. "No, no, wife." He said, "No one can do that." "Go," she said. "You must, for I am the Pope and you are nothing but my husband." Oh, the poor fisherman went trudging to the water's edge. The waves were purple and the wind was whipping violently through the air. But he called out, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I prithee, here to me. For my wife, good Ilsebill, wills not as I'd have her will." The fish swam right up, and he said, "What is it that she wants?" And the fisherman had to say, "Alas, she wants to decide when the sun rises and when it sets." "Go back," said the fish. "She is as she was before." And he swam away, never to be seen again. And when the fisherman trudged back to the forest, there was his wife in her old hovel, and the two of them lived there like that ever after. The end.